What's up everyone, Brady Fugel here coming at you with another album review. Today is going to be the new Sum 41 record and their final record, their swan song record, Heaven X Hell. This is also their first record in about 5 years and is following up 2019's Order in Decline, which was a record that definitely got me invested into Sum 41's music. Because I'll be honest, I've never been that much into pop punk. I'm not saying it's bad, it's not very diverse. And I just kind of find it hard to make it interesting. But when Sum 41 dropped Order in Decline and there was some clear hardcore and metal influence into it, it really got me invested. And with this being their last album, I wasn't really sure the direction they were going to go. Were they going to go back to their pop punk roots? Were they going to maintain this metallically edged sound that the last album had? Or will they do both? And the answer I got was, they did both. And I mean that in the most literal way possible, because literally it's a double album and you have the Heaven section, which is more pop punk oriented, and you have the Hell section, which is more hardcore metal oriented. And I think that is a really cool concept, because rather than just make like a retrospective album or an album that goes back to their roots, they're kind of ending on a way that makes all of their fans happy. And I believe that this album will do nothing short of that, because this is a record that is full of hooks and big choruses and cool riffs. The more pop punk oriented songs on here are very catchy, very hooky. They don't just act as comedy songs like, The Offspring would do, for example. They are again full of hooks, full of meaning with actual meaningful lyrics. And they serve a purpose other than just being your, yippee pop punk song. And then you have the metal songs on here, which are fucking awesome. There are parts and whole tracks on here that might be some of the heaviest stuff this band has ever put out, which is really cool to see on their final farewell album. So getting into the actual album itself and the tracks, it starts with 3 songs in a row that are very fast-paced, energetic, and are just your run-of-the-mill, in a good way, pop punk tracks. Waiting on a Twist of Fate is definitely one of the more aggressive ones from the first half of the album, but in a way that maintains the uplifting and happy feelings that this part of the album is meant to convey. The lead single, Landmines, is another song that conveys this feeling really well. The song just feels so warm. It feels like a warm blanket. And I Can't Wait furthers this feeling even more. So right off the bat, you get 3 songs that establish what this album is going to sound like. But you don't want every song on the record to have that same feeling and to have that same energy as far as fast tempos, uplifting lyrics, warm, fuzzy feelings, which makes track 4, Time Won't Wait, very, very refreshing in a sense that it's a bit more mid-tempo. The vocal performance on this track is a bit more somber and emotional sounding, and it's definitely a breath of fresh air after the first 3 tracks were a bit more in the same vein. But the remaining tracks on the first half of this album do kind of blend together a little bit. They have redeeming parts that make each song a little bit individualized, but as a whole, I do think that the majority of the songs on the first half of this album are lacking a bit of diversity. Bad Mistake, Johnny Libertine, Not Quite Myself, all songs that are again in that same kind of vein as the first 3 tracks on here were. Future Primitive is another one that kind of is in that same vein, although I will single out that verse riff on that song. I think that's really cool, how it's kind of more thrash-oriented. Definitely gives this song a much-needed energy boost when you're listening to this whole first half of the album at once. The song Radio Silence is also a really good way to end this album, and again, it's just a breath of fresh air after listening to several songs in a row that are very much in the same vein again. The somber piano sections, along with Derry Whibley's more emotional, calm vocals, really do a good job of conveying the emotion that this song was meant to convey. And overall, despite the undeniable lack of diversity in some of these songs, this is a decent first half of the album. The only song I really don't like is the song Dopamine. I just think it's very repetitive. The lyrics are really corny and almost sound like they're kind of pandering to a younger audience. The verses in that song, that vocal melody, is pretty much the exact same melody used on Landmines earlier in the record. This one just didn't do it for me. It's definitely one that I'm skipping every time I'm listening to this album. So with the first half of the record out of the way, the Heaven part of the record, now we get into the second half, the Hell part of the record, which is a lot more heavy, fast, aggressive, hardcore, and metal-oriented, which, at least for me, is the preferable sound in Sum 41's catalog. For one, I thought that kind of intro interlude into the song Rise Up, it's called Preparisi a Salire. I think it's in, I'm not sure what language it's in, maybe like Italian or something, don't know. I thought that was actually really cool. I thought it was a very good transition away from that first half of the record into this half. How it kind of stops you in your tracks, and then you get that vocal melody from the song Rise Up kicking in, and you kind of see that then as the transition point. If you want to get real metaphorical, I guess you can call this the bridge from heaven into hell. And it also makes for a really cool transition when that song ends and then the song Rise Up kicks in. And I'll be the first to admit, a song called Rise Up, especially in the rock genre, already is kind of scaring me as a song that might be a little basic. But this song proved me wrong. It is done in a way that is very unique. It's done in a way that's very aggressive and not just, we will rise up, which is pretty much just a butt rock stereotype at this point. And rather than just that basic sounding lyrical theme of these types of songs with these types of names, this song kind of represents defiance. It represents a warning. It represents an I told you so. So just for the song alone, I have to give them serious props. Stranger in These Times and I Don't Need Anyone both start out with some really catchy riffs, which again is really cool to see, especially because the first half of this album wasn't exactly very riff-oriented, which is pretty much a common theme in pop-punk music, so I can't really blame them there. But it does make the riffs on these songs stick out a lot more. Stranger in These Times specifically has a really cool build-up in that pre-chorus with that bouncy riff going on, and then it makes the chorus kick in and sound very, very full. Then the song Over the Edge might be the heaviest song on here. Dare I say, one of the heaviest songs in Sum 41's catalog. I think you could even make the argument that this is just a straight-up hardcore song. You got Derek Whibley's screamed vocals in the verses. You got a very dark but full and anthemic-sounding chorus. You got a fucking breakdown in the bridge with those open chords accented over those stomping drums, and then having that double bass part, which I didn't see coming. I don't think me labeling this song as hardcore or even metalcore heavy metal is that outlandish of a statement. The song It's All Me is another one that's very, very hardcore oriented. That song is just fucking relentless with its fast-paced drums for the majority of the song, and again, the screamed vocals. It has this really cool break in the bridge before kicking into a shreddy guitar solo. You Wanted War is another song that dare I would call metalcore influence. It opens with that really cool technical drum fill over that riff that could have been, honestly, on Avenged Sevenfold's Waking the Fallen. But then it transitions into a pre-verse riff that's more hard rock oriented. Then you get a more laid-back verse and another full-sounding chorus. This song is just all over the place. Paint It Black has almost a metropolitan feel to it, which I thought was really unique. I could see this song being on like a Midnight Club soundtrack or a GTA soundtrack, which if there's several songs or a full album's worth of songs like that, I would probably criticize it, but if it's one song out of the album, I think that's actually kind of cool. The song House of Liars is another one that has a really cool vibe to it, almost a little bit exotic, kind of hard to describe there, but another song that's just very dynamic in a way that it has that very full-sounding intro, again a more laid-back verse, and overall has a very open feeling the entire song. And then the album ends with the track How the End Begins, which is one of my favorites on the album. I kind of expected this song to be like a thanks for your support kind of song, so I was very surprised when I listened to this and heard some extremely dark lyrics and dynamic music. Lyrics like, it's the end, we can't get it back, why doesn't anything good ever last, was not what I was expecting to hear with this song. And quite literally the bookend, or supposed bookend, to Sum 41's musical catalog. And this might be the only song on the whole record that is just a straightforward hard rock song, which again, might not be great if it was a full album's worth of this kind of sound, but ending the album on this type of sound, which makes the song very unique, I thought was very well done. So, all that being said, where does that leave this album? And the answer to that question is that this is a double album that is very consistent, very to the point, definitely very encapsulating of Sum 41's musical career, and even still a bit experimental. I definitely think the second half of the record is better than the first half, simply because it's a bit more diverse. I do think this album would have benefited a bit more from a little bit more diversity in the first half specifically, because I could pretty much say that 7 out of 10 of those songs all have that same song structure, song formula, and mood. But again, that was meant to be the pop-punk part of the album, so I can't bash them a whole lot for that. Because at the end of the day, pop-punk can only be so diverse. The song gets 22 out of 30 for me. As always, thank you guys for watching. Feel free to subscribe for more rock and metal-related content. And until next time, I'll see you guys. Peace!